I am Jessie Nealand of Remodel Fitness, and this is the third and final video in a mini-series on stress and anxiety. Having overcome anxiety myself and helped hundreds of other women do the same, I've put together an 8-week course called Remodel Stress to help you do the same as well. And so far in this series, I've taught you 3 of my favorite practices for reducing stress and anxiety, both externally and internally. Today, I want to teach you about the importance of destigmatizing and actually embracing your stress and anxiety, both for immediate relief and also for a much bigger and more important purpose. So stress and anxiety get a really bad rap in our culture. And that's in part because they're uncomfortable sensations. They're uncomfortable, they're hard to tolerate. And it's also because they have a unique ability to spiral out of control. None of the other emotions really spiral quite so easily. So, rarely would somebody feel happy and then get even happier when they realize how happy they feel and then spiral out in happiness. But that's exactly what happens with stress and anxiety. First, you might feel anxious, and then you might become aware of your anxiety and become anxious about your anxiety. And now you're, even more anxiety layers of it, and so on and so on. It spirals. And because anxiety comes with physical tension, which I mentioned in the first video, being one of the 2 things that anxiety needs to survive, then once you get anxious and tense up, you tend to invite more anxiety to the party. So it makes it a lot easier to have more anxiety once you are anxious. The interesting thing about the anxiety spiral is that it can only happen when you hold a negative opinion of anxiety. So the spiral only works if you deem anxiety as bad or wrong or scary or dangerous or whatever. Because if you were somehow able to view anxiety in a very positive light, like as an amazing gift, well then when it showed up and you noticed it, your next thought would be, awesome, anxiety's here. Instead of, oh God, anxiety's here. So there's something at play here called meta-emotions, which is a super important part of your stress and anxiety experience. Meta-emotions are just how you feel about how you feel. So it's your opinion of and your reaction to how you're feeling, your own emotions. So depending on whether you deem your feelings to be good or bad, you bring out a certain set of meta-emotions. And since in our culture we often view stress and anxiety as scary or dangerous or bad, something to be avoided, then we can often trigger intense meta fear and anxiety just by noticing we're anxious. And the same goes for stress. Studies have actually proven that people who think stress is bad experience significantly more physiological symptoms of stress in their bodies than people who think stress is okay or fine. And people who think anxiety is dangerous get significantly more physiological symptoms of anxiety. So these are physiological. This means this is how your body is reacting. But it's also how you're going to feel in your head. But this is, we're talking about heart rate spikes and, blood pressure spikes and all the reactions that are physical. That happens. You get more of those symptoms when you judge stress or anxiety to be somehow negative. All of this means that if you want to reduce your body's reaction to stress and anxiety, which will also reduce your mind's reaction, that you need to find a way to view stress and anxiety as a positive thing rather than a negative thing. It might sound crazy, but essentially you need to make friends with your stress and anxiety. So the final practice that I want to teach you, it's not just a quick trick that you can try right now and feel better. It's a huge perspective shift, but it will have a dramatic and powerful effect on you if you can adopt it. And the perspective shift is simple. It's that stress and anxiety are your friends and not your enemies. So in video number 2, you learned that anxiety shows up to tell you something. It shows up to get your attention, right? It has a purpose. So it's useful, which is pretty cool. But let's go even further than useful. Because what if anxiety was actually a blessing or a gift? What if you could welcome and treat anxiety as a friend who's looking out for you, even when they bring bad news? I mean, receiving the message that something needs your attention means that you have the opportunity to handle the situation before it gets out of control. And if that's not a blessing, I don't know what is. The same is true of stress. We think of stress as such a negative thing. We have such a negative connotation. But high stress has actually been linked to having a life filled with more meaning. And stress can also be seen as a sign that you care about whatever it is you're stressed about. Because you would never be stressed about something that doesn't matter to you. So you can actually use your stress as a barometer for your engagement with whatever the thing is. Think about what would happen if a big deadline at work was coming up and you had no stress about it whatsoever. It would probably mean that you were kind of disengaged and that you might want to find a job that interests you more. So next time you're tempted to hate on stress, try just viewing it as a gift, a sign that you care deeply. And with this major mindset shift around stress and anxiety, you will automatically start to hold a more positive opinion about them. You're seeing them as useful and valuable and vital, even parts of yourself, parts of your experience. And with that positive meta-emotion comes a reduction in the intensity, the frequency, and the duration of the physiological effects that stress and anxiety can have on your body. That means less physical tension, which you already know is a breeding ground for anxiety. So it just means you're going to have a lot less of that spiral potential. You can't really spiral out when you love and welcome your stress and anxiety. Now, this might sound totally counterintuitive, becoming friends with stress and anxiety in order to get rid of stress and anxiety, but trust me when I say it works. Absorb all that negative opinion, all that negativity into a big warm hug and shift your mindset to view stress and anxiety as friends who come bearing gifts instead of enemies who are trying to ruin your life. You can say, I'm stressed, which is awesome because it shows that I care. Or I'm anxious, which is great because now I know there's work to be done. Now, I know that sounds super cheesy, but the truth is that is possible. And when you do it, when you shift that way, you will notice how much less stress and anxiety are affecting you physically, mentally, and emotionally. And as an added side benefit to reducing your own stress and anxiety, you also have the opportunity to play an important role in the experience of others. Because your meta-emotions don't only affect you, they also affect the people around you. So if you view stress and anxiety as something dangerous and bad, then you put that energy on other people, which confirms their own beliefs that stress and anxiety are bad, 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 and you help keep them stuck in it. So there's really no way out from that place. They're like, hey, this is bad, right? And you're like, yeah, that's bad. And they're like, oh, I knew it was bad, right? So now you're just getting tenser and tenser and tighter, and that's where those spirals, they can really run wild in those moments. So by offering someone else another perspective, like, hey, you're stressed, that must mean you really care about what you do, good for you. You offer them the opportunity to choose a more self-compassionate point of view and to get out of that spiral. I'm not saying everybody's going to take it. I'm not saying everybody's going to be like, oh, I never thought of it that way. Now I'm cured. It's not about that. But you do offer them that opportunity that you didn't offer them before. So if you want to break free of your own stress and your own anxiety, as well as becoming a power source for changing the experience and the conversation around stress and anxiety with everyone that you interact with, then stay tuned next week for when enrollment in my 8-week course, Remodel Stress, opens up for the fall session. Spots are going to be limited, and enrollment's only going to be open for a few days. So if you already know that you're interested in joining, make sure you pay attention Monday and sign up early. Enrollment will open Monday at 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it's going to close Friday evening at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then everyone's going to start the course together the following week. I'm super excited. So if you like this video, the information here, leave me a comment, and then stay tuned all next week for more information and details.